Hello and welcome to another historic video. Today we're checking out monowhite lifegain, an archetype I've already covered in other formats, but now it's time to tackle it in historic. A recent addition is a Leyline of Hope, which is great if it starts out in your opening hand, as you now get additional life gain, eventually giving the team a +2/+2 as well if we get to 27 or more life, and it's pretty easy to enable in this deck, since a lot of the cards in our deck will gradually gain life, which essentially gets doubled with a Leyline now. Then some of the historic cards we don't get to play with in Standard include Guide of Souls, which is similar to the Hinterland Sanctifier, except it also gains energy, and at some point we can cash in 4 energy now, as opposed to the original 3 energy, so this is the nerfed Guide of Souls from Historic, but we still get to put 2+1 counters on a creature and turn it into a flyer as well, so still a nice upgrade over the Hinterland Sanctifier, which is a more recent addition in Standard as well. And then Ocelot Pride also got hit by the Historic nerfs, costing 2 mana as opposed to 1, but still definitely good enough for the archetype as a 1/1 first strike lifelink, making additional cat tokens end of turn if we've gained life, which is pretty trivial, and then with the City's Blessing we can double those cat tokens as well. And then Voice of the Blessed, another nice upgrade compared to the Standard build since it's no longer available in Standard, a 2/2 that will pick up +1 counters whenever we gain life, and a lot of the life gain effects in this deck are 1/1, so it can pick up multiple counters at the same turn. Once we get 4 or more counters it gains Flying and Vigilance, and with 10 or more it will be indestructible as well, and you'd be surprised at how quickly we can get to those 10 counters. And then we've got our Soul Warden as well, which will not only trigger off our creatures entering, but also the opponents, so that can also add up very quickly. And then a Serra Ascendant, another card unique to Historic, getting +5/+5 and flying if we get to 30 or more life, has a lifelink built in as well, so another card that's excellent to pair with all the other life gain effects, and especially the Leyline of Hope, giving it an additional +2/+2 on top of that. And then finally Lunarch Veteran, another creature that can easily gain life whenever creatures enter, so it can also synergize quite well with cards like the Ocelot Pride, making additional cat tokens end of turn, so I prefer these effects over some of the other life gain creatures you could play at 1 mana, like some of the other 1/1 flying lifelinkers out there. And then to round out the deck, I've got a little bit of interaction with Lay Down Arms, which also counts the number of planes we control, which is why we just have 20 planes in the mana base. Nice and simple. Could also consider Sheltered by Ghosts as a more versatile removal spell, but I kind of like the efficiency of Lay Down Arms. And then topping off our curve, a Knight Errant of Eos, important for the grindier matchups, as we can easily convoke it. Often just tapping 2 creatures is enough to get the most out of it, as we'll find all our 1 and 2 drops, and then can select 2 of those to put in hand. So that can also make sure we keep fueling our various synergies and don't run out of steam. And then, as we mentioned, just 20 planes in the mana base to enable Lay Down Arms. So that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the draw. Do not have a 1-drop sadly, but we do get to start with a Leyline of Hope. Now we are on the draw, so we could still top deck a 1-drop, and then Triple Pride could be quite strong. So maybe against better judgment I'll try it. Opponent red-green. Do we see a Faithless Looting perhaps? Yep. So some sort of graveyard combo deck. And Ulamog discarded, so that gives us a clue, but we top-decked Soul Warden, so that's nice. Can enable Ocelot Pride next turn. Could also go straight for Voice of the Blessed, but I think Ocelot first makes sense, at least get 1 copy going. Maybe we can go wide enough to actually sacrifice enough to annihilate her. So it's going to be a Malevolent Rumble. I gain a life of Soul Warden, which gets 1 extra from a Leyline of Hope. And then Soul Warden can attack. If our opponent can get Elish Nord in play, that could also be an issue. So getting to enough life for a Leyline of Hope to pump the team would be nice. Should be able to get there pretty quickly with the Soul Warden. So that happens. Opponent already timing out here, it's only turn 2. Alright. So let's see what they can come up with. That's going to get us to 26. So still a point short of enabling the ley line. Alright, shifting woodlands, also a way to turn it into an Ulamog. And now Wayfinder enabled our ley line for us. There's also an Omniscience, which they can access with a shifting woodland next turn. And Haywire Might can blow up the ley line with an extra mana. So, yeah, this is our last chance to get some more damage in, perhaps. I think Sanctifier into Voice of the Blessed is the play. Although honestly, getting another Ocelot Pride going could also be quite good, since then we'll enable the City's Blessing. So, what do we prefer? Going incredibly wide? I mean, if our opponent gets an Omniscience going, then they get to cast Elishnorn, so then it's all over. So then we may as well go tall with Voice of the Blessed. Because yeah, we know that they have a land in hand, so that's definitely happening. Although at least they wouldn't be able to both sack the Might and cast Elishnorn, unless, of course, they have more stuff in hand that's of relevance. So yeah, making a large voice seems like the play. 11-11 already. So yeah, we'll see if Omniscience wins them the game. Opponent plays a tapped woodland, since they didn't have a forest in play yet. And now Wayfinders, opponent's planning to use the Might, but yeah, I don't think that's good enough. So yeah, getting an Omniscience out of the graveyard wasn't good enough apparently. And now they seem pretty dead to our voice. Can go Veteran into another Ocelot. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Get to start with a ley line and then a 1-drop, double 1-drop. So we'll quickly start gaining life. 3 lands could be a bit much. A 4th one especially, and our opponent's on gates. So I think I still Guide of Souls. Gains the same amount next turn as if we were to hit for 1, but we also get some more energy. Opponent explores. So in this matchup we have to watch out for Gates Ablaze as a sweeper. Opponent's already gaining 3 of Plaza. Alright, so Sanctifier plus Veteran, and then maybe wait a turn on Sarah Ascendant still. Because it wouldn't be big enough to get the +5 bonus yet. So Gates Ablaze would hurt. Opponent's got a Blast Zone and the Gates Ablaze, so yeah, they've got both angles covered here. Yeah, I guess we wait on Sarah Ascendant until our opponent sacks the Blast Zone. And then for now I can go Guide, get back Veteran. And then hopefully they'll feel inclined to sack the Blast Zone, because our team now has +2/+2. And then the Ascendant is close to getting +5/+5. It's gonna be a Spelunking. So no Blast Zone this turn. And yeah, can't really play the Ascendant here, I don't think, but we're also not applying enough pressure with what we have in play, so I might have to commit one more, although it feels bad when we know about Blast Zone. Yeah, it's rough. I'll still play it. And then I may as well spend my energy, since I'm not going to get a chance to it later, unless I top deck another Guide of Souls. So hit you for 8. Opponent's kinda locked into sacking the Blast Zone next turn. I get to play another 8/8. And that's maybe a 2-turn clock, we'll see. Opponent's gonna root, lands enter untapped, so they can still activate Blast Zone. Alright, so we get to reset once again. Late on arms, not the best draw here. So 1 Sarah Ascendant versus a lot of gates. If they gates ablaze now, it would only be 4 damage. So their opponent's pretty far from winning with Mace's End. But they might have Primeval Titan here that they can give haste to with battlements. Although we could block it with the Ascendant. And yeah, there's Primeval Titan. And do they have another utility land? Just a pair of plazas to gain 6. I'm going to be a bit short of using late on arms on the Titan. Opponent is actually attacking. So if they can get another blast zone, they could sack it before blockers. But it's going to be Baldur's Gate instead. Alright. Feels good to eat a Primeval Titan, but our opponent got pretty far ahead thanks to those additional triggers. In fact, enough to cast a second main Primeval Titan. So all of a sudden our opponent's pretty close to winning with Mace's End. They have 3, 4, 5, 6, potentially 7, 8 gates in play. So then just activate Mace's End twice next turn to win the game. And there's not really anything I can do about it. So yeah, it was the 1-2 punch of Blast Zone and Gates Ablaze. And unless I mathed wrong, I think we're dead. Titan can also attack. There's no real point in blocking anymore. But yeah, opponent's got plenty of gates already. Make 9 mana with Baldur's Gate. Cast a White Suns for 20, just because. Alright, they're just rubbing salt in the wound at this point. Exile a Might. And then Mace's End is game over. But opponent's gonna opt for the poison plan instead. Fair enough. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Our hand's pretty fair, the type of hand that would benefit from any of our 2-drops or a Knight Errant, but for starting out it's fine. Probably play the Guide of Souls first. Opponent's a red-black with an Inquisition, so opponent had the discard spell, probably taking Guide of Souls. And found a land. I'll maybe start with a Veteran. If that eats removal, it doesn't feel as bad. So we'll hit for 1. And drew another land in the meantime, so that's not ideal. Opponent exiling the Veteran with a Spikefield Hazard, that feels pretty awful. So we're down to 2 creatures and 5 lands. I'll still take a Knight Errant off the top. Opponent's got the Fable. Soul Warden is not quite what we need, since we're pretty far from enabling the Ascendant. So our opponent can just string together a bunch more removal and kind of take over with our mid-range game plan. Phyrexian Arena for more card advantage. At least Inquisition will miss. Small victory. Gotta keep our creatures alive in the hopes of stringing together some synergy. Opponent's got a Crucius, so that can find more action. Opponent getting rid of another discard spell. Alright, Ocelot Pride is one of our better cards. And yeah, I'll offer the trade for Sarah Ascendant and Sanctifier, I think. Opponent accepts. We were pretty far from enabling the Sarah Ascendant, so this feels fine. Possible they have another Crucius in hand. strangling my Ocelot Pride. That's animal abuse. And they had another Crucius, as it turns out. So still hoping for a Knight Errant. Another Serra Ascendant, not quite. Still gonna play it. And then no attacks. If our opponent makes a mistake of playing too many creatures pre-combat, we could grow the Ascendant, but the right move is to attack first. And then a Shieldred's pretty good too. Although it is actually somewhat beatable for our deck. Assuming we can find more of our synergies. Soul Warden will gain 2 life upon entering. Can maybe consider jumping with a cat if it means getting closer to 30 life, but still seems pretty far away. Opponent cast Pyromancer, which is just a draw 2 here. That's pretty strong. Shaman attacks. Yeah, we're gonna lose 2 more life to Shieldreds. But yeah, if I jump, assuming they didn't draw removal, and I draw a creature, Saracen can maybe start getting in there, which is maybe how we take over. Small consideration for double blocking to actually take out the Shaman. Opponent ditches another Shieldreds. And Knight Errant, that's what we needed. Gonna convoke, tapping probably 3 creatures here, so the Ascendant has a chance to attack. 2 would be enough to find most of our other creatures. Looks like they have removal. And Ocelot Pride, plus another Soul Warden. Can play both. Serra Ascendant flies. And then maybe attack first before showing them the Ocelot, but I guess it's revealed, so they can time their removal accordingly. And at 33, there's no real risk of them burning me for enough damage where Ascendant no longer flies. The combo of Reflection with Seasoned Pyromancer is a good one too. Opponent channeling Crucible. Okay. And then now activate Reflection on the Pyromancer. So they've got a lot of card draw. But you can also see the power of our life gain synergies. We're up to 51 all of a sudden. Got the City's Blessing, get to make more tokens, gain more life. And yeah, just draw more Knight Errants, please. At this point, if we draw Voice of the Blessed, it can immediately gain Indestructible. The Dreadhorde could be scary once it starts getting back removal spells. And strangle my Ocelot once again. They could activate Reflection on the Arcanists, and then maybe Fatal Push the Serra Ascendant. But then I would get to block the Arcanist as well. Alright, we were bound to draw lands at some point. So just a Serra Ascendant attacking. Got a lot of life to spare, but eventually our opponent can remove everything one by one. They had a Fatal Push. So, yeah, not loving my position. I'll keep a land in hand so they maybe waste a discard spell on us. Drawing a ley line could be somewhat decent since we can pump the team with it. Opponent fires off the Inquisition. It's the small victories. And now Spikefield my Soul Warden. That's gone forever. So we're slowly gonna lose our entire board. Opponent's seen half of their deck. And yeah, it's only Knight Errant that's an exciting top deck. Now that we're losing Soul Wardens, Voice of the Blessed is no longer all that great. And yeah, the Reflection of Kiki Jiki putting in overtime. So, double Soul Warden down. I guess we can block like so. Alright, I got my wish. I'll fully convoke it now, so we can maybe find other Knight Errants with it. Which we did, and a voice. So, probably playing voice and then convoking, tapping 2. So still getting a couple life gain triggers while we control Soul Warden. And we found another Soul Warden, and I want to say Guide of Souls, because they can just get back Spikefield to exile my veteran, so it's not like we're gonna get multiple uses out of it. Alright, so not quite getting to an indestructible Voice of the Blessed, which is what we needed. Arcanist attacks and goes for Inquisition. So they're not pushing the Voice. Opponent reconsiders. And explodes. Wow, that must have been our opponents maybe realizing their mistake, wanting to go for Fatal Push, but it was too late. And there you have it, so never give up, Knight Errant is to the rescue. Okay, we're on the play. We do not have the ley line, but we do have double Soul Warden, which can do a lot of work with the Voice of the Blessed. And then some amount of Lurrus decks are kind of sacrifice combo decks, in which Soul Warden can also stop just by keeping up with the life drain. Mana Confluence points towards a lot of colors. And a Giver of Runes, so could be an Aura deck as well, which can potentially go over the top of what we're doing. I think I still Voice, since next turn I can grow it some more with Soul Warden and Sanctifier. But the opponents does potentially have access to Sheltered by Ghosts if they're on the Aura deck, and that can answer Voice while giving one of their creatures lifelink and potentially outrace us. And since we're mono white, Giver of Runes is also very effective. Opponent found Light Paws. So yeah, if they've got some auras in hand, we are in trouble. We're just gonna empty our hands. And then Voice will fly, so it can at least get past the opponent's stuff. If we top deck our removal spell, it's also not going to be very effective if the Giver's untapped. So we're all in on a Voice of the Blessed. But yeah, any 2-mana aura basically gets Sheltered by Ghosts. And then we'll need to top deck another Voice pretty much. And yeah, Demonic Ruckus will search it up. So not what we wanted to see. Our opponent can attack thanks to Giver of Runes. Interestingly, I could triple block, and then if they give protection from white, the aura would fall off. actually top-decked another voice, so that's lucky. And now they won't be able to get another Sheltered by Ghosts with a White Paws' ability at least. So we might still have a chance. Although they can also make Light Paws a lot bigger to potentially outrace the voice. Alright, they had another Sheltered by Ghosts in hand, so there goes that plan. And then they can get maybe an Ethereal Armor here. Yep. So now we won't be able to block to force them to use Giver Runes, and we're just losing the race. Ocelot Pride can go wide. And then could attack with double Sanctifier to get 1 damage in. And playing the land is worth it for the City's Blessing. So as long as Light Paws doesn't fly or trample, we could maybe still keep up. But yeah, it's not gonna take long. Especially given that our opponent missed a few land drops. Their hand is all spells, which you have to assume is mostly enchantments. But yeah, it is funny that they cannot give protection from white without losing their 2 auras. Amped Raptor triggers Soul Warden. And finds Shard Mage's Rescue. So that can find another 1 mana aura perhaps. If there's any left. I imagine they have Sentinel's Eyes for Vigilance. And yeah, that's what they got. So, opponent hits for 13. I'll jump. I guess it has Menace as well, from the Ruckus. Yeah, I mean, I could maybe take it still. Land's not what we wanted. So, yeah, and don't have anything to do really. Would love to find a Knight Errant. Can fully convoke it and play more stuff afterwards. It's gonna be an Ethereal Armor next. Because yeah, technically if we did draw a removal spell, we could pay Ward 2 twice. And then if they give protection from white, we get our stuff back. Opponent gets in and has a Shard Mage's Rescue left to hit us for 27. Alright, that's too bad. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a promising hand. Double Leyline, Soul Warden, Ocelot. That's a good starting point. Opponent reading Leyline of Hope. Turn 1 Overgrown Tomb. They could have Fatal Push. I think I still play the Soul Warden, because there's a chance they play their own creature next turn. But yeah, opponent's got to push. And now Wayfinder, so it is a graveyard deck. Pithing Needle, not gonna do much, but yeah, it's an Emperor of Bones, Ulamog Reanimator deck. So I think I still try Ocelot Pride, try and get that going, even though next turn I could enable it right away. Still has a better time attacking into the Wayfinder than our other 1-drops. So if they have an Emperor of Bones, we could be in trouble. So far so good. Drew a Knight Errant. Can convoke that next turn. And Ocelot can attack. Opponent jumps. Make some more tokens. And the team now has +4/+4. Shifting Woodland also scary, since they can turn it into an Ulamog, and our opponent had the Toxic Deluge to wipe our board. That's unfortunate. So now Woodland has been enabled. And we have to decide what to commit to the board next. I guess it is Voice of the Blessed. So yeah, if they turn Woodland into an Ulamog, at least it won't have Annihilator. since it doesn't have counters. Opponent's got another Deluge, falls to 5. And has a land now. And Ocelot Pride. So next turn they can activate Woodland as an Ulamog, hit us for 7, get us to 22. So then I won't have the +4/+4 bonus anymore. I think it's still Ocelot Pride here. And our opponent explodes. Alright, felt a little bit premature, but I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We've got our Leyline, some initial creatures to set up the Convoke on Knight Errant. Would have preferred kind of 1-drop, double 1-drop into Convoke. So this hand might be a little bit clunky with 2 Knight Errants. But I'll still try it. Starting with Leyline is a pretty big advantage. Even though our 1-drop is probably one of the weaker ones. So our opponent with a Utopia Sprawl, so a green Devotion deck. Alright, so I don't expect a lot of removal, but our opponent can do some powerful things of their own. Kiora untapping the forest would make +2 mana, and we keep drawing more clunky Knight Errants, which is not quite where we want to be. Might be a lost cause, but I'm still gonna try and pressure Kiora. So our opponent has 5 mana, now that's plus even more mana. Trailblazer is quite nice with Kiora. And another Trailblazer, draw 2 cards, make a mana. So our opponent's going off. And a Fanatic can tap for 4. That one we can lay on Arms, which is probably worth it. Play Sanctifier. Interestingly, I could also lay down Arms my own creature to exile it and gain 3, but still wouldn't fly Voice of the Blessed to try and finish off Kiora, since we need 4 counters. So I'll just exile the Fanatic then. But yeah, we're super far behind on mana here. Can't even attack Kiora. And triple Knight Errant is not what we were hoping for. So Old Growth Troll draws 3 cards. Kiora tapping the land is +3 mana. And our opponent still hasn't found Nykthos, which would really push them over the top. Alright, there we have it. So now 9 mana. Cavalier. Draw 3. Yeah, this hand was just way too clunky. Maybe shouldn't have kept, but also ended up drawing the 3rd Knight Errant, which, besides another Leyline, was kind of the worst case scenario. So now Storm the Festival, finds backup Kiora and Nykthos. Opponent can keep going. And potentially just win this turn if they find a way to give the team haste. Another Cavalier. Opponent should be playing Ulvenwald Oddity, which they can play and transform to give the team haste. Ronos, I guess a mana sink as well. Opponent's seen 2/3 of their deck already. And they're gonna Eternalize Fanatic to draw 3 more. So yeah, Nykthos doing what it's good at, which is making a lot of mana. 19 cards remain, and I finally get to convoke my Knight Errant. If I tap Veteran and Sanctifier, I do get to give Voice flying, but we're pretty far from indestructible, which is kind of what we need here. And there's the 1-drops we needed sooner. So we can attack Kiora now, but opponent's got plenty of reach creatures that can get in the way as well. And we should be dead next turn, one way or another. Opponent's got 14 mana with Nykthos. They can untap with Kiora. Another Kiora coming up. So yeah, with what they have in play, they can get there just by activating Hronos a bunch. But our opponent's gonna keep sequencing correctly. Make more devotion before tapping Nykthos. Play another Trailblazer. I guess if they're not careful, they're gonna end up decking. But I'm sure our opponent will just go for it now. 17 mana. Karn can get all sorts of things out of the sideboard, including the Chain Veil nowadays, which lets them activate Planeswalkers an additional time, or you can just get a Portal to Phyrexia, which will be pretty effective as well.
The ocean surges, life thrives.
So yeah, the game was over a couple turns ago,
There's something truly spectacular.
but we'll let our opponent have their fun. Although I believe an all-out attack now is pretty much game. Opponent's got more copies of Nykthos to show off. 49 mana floating. Anything else? A finale of Devastation for X equals 47. That's an impressive win. How close are they to decking? 10 cards left. Alright, GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. No ley line, but a good mix of threats and a bit of interaction. Turn 1, we already face an interesting decision. I'll go with the Guide of Souls over Soul Warden, but I might go Soul Warden plus Sanctifier instead of slamming down Voice of the Blessed right away. Opponent's red-white with a Static Prison for Guide, so they're on energy. Now Ocelot Pride is interesting. I think I still double 1-drop here. Being able to grow the voice right away in case they have a static discharge is important. Opponent's got the Raptor, which finds an Ajani, so that was a powerful 1-2 punch. We can exile Ajani, hoping we draw lane so I can double spell. I guess Ascendant still works there. Yeah, letting them untap with an Ajani is scary if they have Goblin Bombardment in hand, because that would just kind of decimate our board. So I'll try and play around it, even though I would have loved to deploy a 2-drop. No attacks. Opponent has to pay the prison energy. And I've got another Ajani, unfortunately. And another prison. I'm going for Serra Ascendant, which is close to getting pumped. Well, with double prison, at least they are getting taxed on energy, so we can hope they eventually fail to pay for it. And Voice versus Ocelot Pride is kind of interesting too here. If they have a Goblin Bombardment in hand, then what happens? I play Voice, it grows up to a 4/4. They play Bombardment, sack a creature, deal 1 to it, transform Ajani. But then if they 0, we would trigger these first. So I think that's reasonable. And then Ocelot can grow Voice a bunch more next turn. So I guess if they have bombardment, they would go for Soul Warden first. The One Ring, alright, so we're kind of imitating the modern deck that recently got banned. And if I block, they do get to transform a Jani. So that may not be worth it. If I take 4, we're at 24. I guess the threshold's less important now that we don't have a leyline in play. Yeah, I can take it and eventually fly the voice. Still going for the Ocelots. They're protected by the ring, so no point in attacking. But yeah, we'll get our stuff back here from the static prisons. So that's exciting. Our opponent thinking about responding to all the triggers. Maybe they could draw with a ring to find removal. But yeah, voice about to be indestructible as well. They've already used double static prison, so I don't know how many answers they have left. Their own Ocelot is a good starting point. And a Vindicator, that one we don't care about. And then once again, don't really want to let my opponent transform a Jani. Feels like we can just beat them next turn in the air. Especially with another Soul Warden or Ocelot. So yeah, I'm getting to see some of the downside of a static prison. You eventually run out of energy. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Hand seems decent. With Soul Warden into Ocelot Pride, we can go wide, and that sets up the Convoked Knight Errant pretty nicely. Facing a Mana Confluence, so graveyard combo. What are we discarding? A Scholar and a Breach, so they could persist on turn 2 already to technically win the game. Let's see if they have the perfect hand. Looks like it. Persist, Scholar, cast Breach. And yeah, we could just be dead here. On turn 2. Historic is one wild format. I have been adding Tormod script in a few decks because of decks like these. That's one way to maybe stop them. Because yeah, even if we had, let's say, a Rest in Peace in hand, it would be too slow. So our opponent breaches again. All sorts of nonsense in the graveyard. Vorinclex probably part of the Emergent Ultimatum pile with a Liliana, Dreadhorde General, and Omniscience. Opponent now casting Emergent Ultimatum. And, I mean, just with what they have in play, they could already win the game. But they're casting an Emergent Ultimatum on top of it. So, yeah, that's what the nut draw looks like for this deck. How many cards do we have left? 27. So, yeah, I don't think this matters in any way, shape, or form. They get to breach again. 18 cards left. Gotta hope they get a little overzealous and somehow end up decking. But yeah, I guess their opponent now getting back Vorinclex with a breach, and then Vraska enters with a double loyalty. And then they can ultimate. Does Vorinclex also double counters on players? It does, so that should just win the game on the spot. 18 poison on turn 2. That's impressive. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a promising hand. Got the ley line, bit of interaction, and then a good curve of creatures. Opponent red-black with Lurrus as companion. So it could be a sacrifice deck. Yep, as we see the familiar. could already be worth exiling with a laydown arms. I think I would still rather get my own synergies online first. And then we might end up exiling a 2-drop instead. So this is probably the Samwise combo deck. As we see green and a Birthing Ritual, which can sack the Familiar to try and find something else. So we maybe lost our opportunity to exile the Familiar while it was still in play. Opponent found a Jani. That's a good one. Still gonna play an Ocelot, I think. No attacks. And then next turn we can triple 1-drop. And Jani not really part of the combo. Not sure how many red permanents they have to enable the Planeswalker side. I guess Goblin Bombardment answers that question. Also kind of an infinite sacrifice outlet to pair with Samwise and Cauldron Familiar. So yeah, Ocelot Pride down, opponent transforms a Jani, so not what we were hoping to see.
Hunt down the deceivers.
At least they cannot take out the Guide of Souls, but they're probably going to use the cat for Birthing Ritual now. So yeah, could have maybe been avoided. Opponent missed on the Ritual at least. So this turn we should be able to finish off a Jani by just playing 2 creatures out, and may as well go Sanctifier into Voice. Also don't want to play Ascendant while they can still shoot it with the Bombardment. And then Guide can pump itself to finish off a Jani. Team gets +2/+2. So yeah, we're making some progress. Despite the setback last turn. And we still have our removal spell to maybe stop a combo piece. Although Samwise can still win them the game on the spot here with the Familiar. It's going to be an Amped Raptor. Finding a backup Ajani, pretty good. Although now our creatures are a bit harder to kill.
I will prove my worth to my pride.
And Unlucky Witness. So yeah, it feels like it's inevitable for the opponent to find whatever they're missing. And the Lay Down Arms being a sorcery means we can't quite interact the way we would like. Bombardment goes face to transform a Jani. Now 4 damage, could go face again to shrink down our creatures, but they're still pretty large. Opponent's down to 1 card in hand, but yeah, the Birthing Ritual here is the problem. Found a Trap Finder, which can be sacked to the Bombardment. They found a Replacement Witness. Another Guide isn't bad. But yeah, now whatever we would potentially want to lay down arms, they can sack with a Bombardment. They could try and respond to some of these life gain triggers to snipe the Ascendant while it's still small, but they do not. And then can finish off a Jani and go face. I don't know if there's a point in attacking with a Sanctifier, since they can just jump and sacrifice. So, yeah, nothing we can really do with the lay down arms right now. Just gotta hope they don't find a Samwise. They found a Samwise. So yeah, now they can just go off with Cauldron Familiar. Play Witness, make a food. Sack food, rinse and repeat. And that's game. Alright, so yeah, got to the last turn here. In hindsight, maybe would have just used a Late on Arms on the Familiar right away. But I was hoping they would at some point cast a Samwise that I could exile, or play Bartolome as opposed to the Bombardment. So, opponent's got the infinite combo here. And we'll let them go through a few more loops to show that they know the infinite combo. But I think they've got it. So we're not gonna sit here for 30 more triggers. GG's. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Hand seems keepable. Start with a Leyline, get to curve Guide of Souls into Ocelot Pride, and we even have some interaction with Lay Down Arms. Still relatively fair for historic standards, but against other creature decks this can be quite strong. Yeah, still gonna play the Guide. No Fatal Push. Mana Confluence points towards more of a combo deck if they're stretching into multiple colors. And a Malevolent Rumble reveals Omniscience, Elish Norn. So yeah, opponent's up to no good. And next turn they could technically already reanimate stuff. Still gonna play the Ocelots. And attack. Make a token end of turn, gain 2 more life. And hope our opponent cannot already bring back Elish Norn or Omniscience. Gonna be another Grisly Salvage for now. See more ways to fill the graveyard. Archdruid's Charm, maybe a way to get Shifting Woodlands, which can turn into an Omniscience. So that might be their plan. Currently no forest in play yet, so a Woodland would enter tapped. Although they can still activate it thanks to the spawn token, so we may want to consider exiling it. Because yeah, even if our opponent just turns their land into an Elish Norn, they can basically wipe our board if we didn't give it +2/+2 yet. Collective Brutality takes out the Guide and removes Lay Down Arms, but now we don't really need it anymore. Alright, so pretty simple turn for us. Veteran into Sarah Ascendant attack. And then get a token end of turn, which gets us to 28 life, giving the team +2/+2. So now Elish Norn at least doesn't immediately wipe the board, but our opponent also put an Atraxa in the graveyard. So that might be their next reanimation target. For now, just a Ripples and another Confluence, and Fae of Wishes, cast as a 1/4 blocker. So yeah, not particularly exciting. Play Voice, triggers Veteran, and then now Sarah Ascendant gets bigger. So we've got our opponent on a very fast clock. So they get to top deck. Not sure if they can top deck something that wins the game on the spot. Because if they find Shifting Woodlands and turn it into an Omniscience, it doesn't really do anything when empty-handed. GG's. We're at 47. So we've got a combined life total of 50, but we've got a major share. So we got to see our monowhite lifegain deck in action, And if you enjoy putting lots of life gain triggers on the stack and winning about half of your games, this deck may be for you. Maybe you already have some of these life gain cards in your collection from other formats, and then it's not too difficult to put together. It's a lot of fun to play, and the gameplay is relatively straightforward. Just play lots of creatures and hope for the best. So yeah, if you enjoy this sort of play style, I can recommend this sort of deck. There's certainly a bit of wiggle room in the exact configuration. You could experiment with Sheltered by Ghosts instead of some of the author removal options. You could try and add some more non-creature permanents that synergize with life gain as well. I just wanted to maximize the synergies with a Knight Errant. So there's a lot of ways to approach a life gain in Historic, but I think Leyline of Hope is definitely an important addition just to give you some more busted opening hands, which are needed to keep up with some of the other degenerate decks in the format. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.